Shut up. He's going in like, do you both work the same amount of hours? Do you work the same amount of hours? I'm gonna do it. Did you get a new one? A new phone?
No.
It looked new.
I did get a new.
I think it's a new phone.
No, not.
He was hired to hurt the other team, and he'll do it for anybody.
All right, good evening. We're going to begin in 30 seconds. Please ensure your cell phones are off or on silent. Council members, ensure your microphones are turned on.
It's too hot in here. Why aren't you on the...
It's off. I'm... Because I'll freeze. But the heat
Turn the AC.
I will in a minute.
No. No. No air.
Everything is off.
Okay.
I checked.
All right, today is January 9th, 2023. Today is a regular legislative meeting of Barberton City Council. Before we begin the legislative meeting, we're going to go into individual committee reports, and we will start with Parks with Mr. Jaber.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Parks and Recreation meeting today, January 9th, 2023, council chambers. Myself as chair, Mr. Thomas Heidig, and Mrs. Fry, and Mrs. Fry is absent today. Our council members are all here and noted, and guests are also noted. We have one requested legislation, a letter from Todd Shreve, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation allowing the mayor to enter a 5-year lease to own contract with Toshiba Business Solutions, the city copy machine supplier. Emergency wording requested, see attached letter, and this will be referred to finance. Any remarks or questions? Mr. Heidig?
Thank you, Chair. Director Shreve, what's the plan for the old ones? Just scrap, or can we repurpose them in any way?
So talking to our rep from Toshiba, he says that, with the whole electronic shortage that we dealt with trucks and this and that, there's actually some value in our machines. They're getting to the point where they're nickel and diming us, to where we've got a technician in, a couple of times a month working on a machine here or there. So that's why we're looking at upgrading. But he says by all means, we could probably get something on gov deals. So they would probably be worth selling, just for even parts for another supplier to fix somebody else's machine. So I think our plan should be to try to sell them in an auction. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
yep.
Any other questions or remarks? Ms. Angelo?
Yes, how many copy machines do we have? How many are we talking about this 5-year lease to own? Do you know?
I do. Give me 1 second. Don't actually.
I got all night.
So it would be 14 machines.
Thank you.
And all of those machines vary. Some of them are black and white, some of them are color copies, some of them are 10 sheets per minute, some of them are 60 sheets per minute. They all vary in application and location.
Okay,
depending on where they're at.
thanks.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Since we're referring this, we still want to do a motion on this.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Tried it, and I will second this since Mr. Fry is not here. Take a vote.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. No pending legislation. Open this up for miscellaneous discussion. Committee. All right. Guests or other council members? All right. Seeing none. We are motion for adjournment, please.
I'll make that motion.
I will second that. And we are adjourned today at 6:05, sir. That passed.
Thank you, Mr. Jaber. Next up is Public Welfare and Safety with Mrs. Fry. Mrs. Fry is absent this evening, so Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Welfare and Safety, I would like to call this meeting to order today. Mrs. Fry is absent, so I'll be chair tonight. All members are present, as noted. Tonight, we have, except Mrs. Fry, we have no request for legislation. Do we have any miscellaneous discussion from the gallery or from council people for safety?
I have nothing.
You don't have anything? Thank you. Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Coburn, and I'll second. We adjourn at 6:05.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Next up is Rules, Marketing, and Development with Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to call this meeting to order, Rules, Marketing, Development. Today, we're meeting in council chambers. All members are present and all others noted. Tonight, we have no requests for legislation. Do we have any miscellaneous discussion for Rules, Marketing? Yes, Mrs. Coburn.
Are we going to start the discussion on the phones behind the
Gate.
railing?
Yes, Mr. Greer is gonna, when he,
I can provide a little bit more information. some
More
guidelines on that.
Appreciate that.
okay.
So the rules discussion, we need to do, or I would like to do before the end of the month. And the reason I say the end of the month is legal is working on some changes or amendments for some other parts of that. And I've asked if they can get it done before the end of the month.
Okay.
So I would like to do it all in one big go.
Okay.
It's not just the phone thing. There was amendments to possibly for some changes on the phone that we have discussion about, rule changes with possibly restructuring or adding a term to one of the
Okay.
committees. So we do need to have that conversation, and rules would be the time to have it. So if there's anything like out of the blue that, or that you guys want to talk about now, the committee's best time to talk about it. If not, then Mr. Griffin needs to start compiling a list of the rules.
Mrs. Angelo? Yes.
I think Mr. Heidick brought up about, or the plan, the boards and commissions, in that, was that part of that too, that we were going to change that from October 1st to?
October forward.
Forward, okay, yeah, that needs to be, that's part of the change too.
Correct. And I apologize, I got up here a little late. I was going to talk with Mr. Griffin about that, what I just mentioned, so he's kind of hearing it for the first time too. But I'll work with Mr. Griffin and we'll make a list, compile a list for council.
So in 2 weeks, this will be, when we meet again, we should be ready to discuss this.
It's up to Mr. Griffin, but ideally, yes. I'm hoping that legal has it. So as soon as legal gets back to us with some of the amendment language that they wanted to add, then we will.
'Cause we don't want to wait till December to do this again.
No. Oh, we should be reviewing it in December for modifications, but yeah, no.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Griffin.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Coburn. Do we have anything else for rules?
Chair.
Yes, Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Chair. I'm a little just confused with the cell phones. Are we trying to explicitly say it because 203C already prohibits any electronic device other than those issued by the city, such as these iPads?
We need to say during the break. I guess that's not in
Gotcha.
our rule.
Gotcha.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Yeah, we're just gonna clarify it. It's there, but we're just gonna clarify it for breaks and whatever.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Like, I have an Apple Watch, which tells the time. So would I then not be able to wear my watch?
That's a good question.
You're more than welcome to wear your watch.
Okay.
I think we're getting a little into the weeds.
I know.
Yeah.
I was just curious because I know that's a device.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the discussion still needs to happen even if we are going to add that. That was just a suggestion. We still need to vote on those things.
Okay.
Can you silence?
Oh,
your-
yeah, you don't even know I have it
Yeah,
on.
so that's the same
Right, I
pattern.
know it.
Okay. Yeah. I know.
Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. Do we have anything else for rules? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor.
I will second that.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. We're adjourned at 6:10. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Next up, city utilities with Mrs. Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to call the city utilities to order. It's 6:10 PM. We have myself as chairman and Erica Bailey, as Mrs. Fry is not here this evening. All others are mentioned on my sheet. We have no requests for legislation. I will open it up for miscellaneous as we have nothing pending. Is there anything for utilities? From the audience? From the mayor? Do I have a motion? Mr. Greer,
I apologize, last minute question.
ask away.
How have we been sitting with the winter weather and water main breaks?
Yeah,
We've
there's
been-
been some.
Question, I can find that information out. I don't have it right with me off the top of my head, but I can get with our manager and get those numbers and kind of put a report together like I had Clay do for the salt and the last winter storm.
I know we haven't had 100 streets blocked.
Yeah,
And it's really not winter time. We only had 1 week.
I was gonna,
So we've got a lot more to go.
Yeah. We would appreciate that. Thank you very much.
thank you, Mrs. Coburn.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that. Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. We are adjourned at 6:11.
Thank you, Mrs. Coburn. Last but not least, finance and personnel with Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance and Personnel, it is 6:11, Monday, January 9th, 2023, in council chambers. All members of the committee are present, which consists of Councilors Coburn, Thompson, President Greer, myself as chair. All others are noted. I have no request for legislation during the Parks and City Properties referral. Just for clarification, Finance tries not to have anything since we meet every week until the night of committee of the whole, so we can expedite the process, because if we called for it tonight, there's no difference if we call for it next week. That's the only reason you don't hear a referral under the topic of discussion there. After that, we have pending legislation, Ordinance 1, 2023, authorizing payment to Neighborhood Development Services, authorizing the Director of Finance to pay an invoice to Neighborhood Development Services in the amount of $3,424.39 for payment to revolving loan fund services, declaring an emergency. Any comments on this? All right, miscellaneous discussion. Does anybody have any from the committee?
I do.
Counselor?
Thank you. I just wanted to remind anybody, just in case you have questions, I know that Rita is still pretty new to Barberton, but if your estimated payment is over $200 for the 2022 year, that payment is due January 15th. So if you get a call asking, why do I have this bill? If it's over $200, that is why. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anything else from the gallery? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:14.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. Being that the individual committee meetings this morning only lasted 14 minutes, we are going to roll into the legislative meeting. Is anybody opposed to that?
No.
All right.
Nope.
You good? Catch me outside. All right, this is a regular legislative meeting of Barberton City Council. Today is Monday, January 9th, 2023. Call this meeting to order at 6:14 PM. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by invocation by me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity for us to gather and discuss important matters regarding our community, which we all call home. Let our differences be the opportunity to better understand ourselves and our neighbors. Guide us to be compassionate and give us strength to stand steadfast with our convictions. Father, I ask that you watch over our men and women of the military, our safety forces, as they watch over us. And through your name, anything is possible. And I pray in your name. Amen. Clerk, please call the roll.
President Greer.
Present.
Mr. Heidick.
Here.
Mrs. Thompson.
Here.
Mrs. Bailey.
Here.
Mrs. Angela.
Here.
Mr. Griffin.
Here.
Mr. Jaber.
Here.
Mrs. Coburn.
Here.
And Mrs. Freisach.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes. So approval of the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on Monday, December 19th, 2022. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to approve the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on Monday, December 19th, 2022.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mr. Heidick's motion to approve the minutes from Monday, December 19th, 2022.
Thank you. It was moved by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson to approve the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on Monday, December 19th, 2022, as presented. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are adopted. Petitions and claims.
We have none.
Matters requested.
They don't use first.
Okay. Citizens addressing council.
No.
One of these times she's going to get you.
I was going to say,
Thank you, Mrs. Angela. First reading of ordinances and resolutions.
Ordinance number 1-2023, presented by Mr. Heidick. Title, Authorized Payment, Neighborhood Development Services. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance to pay an invoice to Neighborhood Development Services in the amount of $3,424.39 for payment to revolving loan fund services and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you. Is Mrs. Coburn?
Thank you, Mr. President. I second that motion on suspension.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Coburn to suspend the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mrs. Angela?
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Fry is absent. Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Heidick?
Yes.
Mr. Jaber?
Yes.
Motion for suspension carries. Motion to adopt, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt Ordinance 1-2023.
Thank you. Mrs. Coburn?
Thank you, Mr. President. I second that motion for adoption.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Coburn to adopt ordinance number 1-2023. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Jaber?
Yes.
Mr. Heidick?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn?
Yes.
Mrs. Angela?
Yes.
Mrs. Fry is absent.
Thank you. Motion for adoption carries.
This ends the first readings.
Second reading of ordinances and resolutions.
We have none.
Third reading of ordinances and resolutions.
We have none.
Thank you. Miscellaneous and unfinished business. I would like to entertain a motion to excuse Mrs. Fry for today's meeting. Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to excuse Counselor Fry from tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mrs. Thompson?
I'll second. Excuse
you.
Mrs. Fry.
A motion was made by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson to excuse Councilwoman Fry for today's meeting, January 9th, 2023. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Councilwoman Fry is excused. Is there anything from the body? Mr. Shreve?
I just wanted to check with everybody and make sure that you did get the winter storm report that I sent out, and make sure that if anybody had any questions, I wanted to answer them tonight. Just because I know it was asked for in committee last Monday, so I just wanted to follow up if there was any follow-up questions.
Thank you for the report.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. It was pretty detailed.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And I will send it to Lori. I send it to everybody but Lori.
Come on. All right, is there any, Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you. I just wanted to let everybody know that tomorrow's design review board meeting has been canceled due to lack of agenda.
All right. Is there anything else from the body? I would like to remind council and everybody else that next week, council will be on a Tuesday, the 17th, because Martin Luther King Jr. Day is the 16th. So I have nothing else. Anything? All right. Communication from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week, we met with several potential new businesses interested in coming to Barberton, and we have a few more meetings set up this week, so hopefully we can land a few of these businesses, if not all of them. We continue to collect non-perishables benefiting Backham and Salvation Army through the end of the month. I want to publicly thank all the businesses and residents who have supported this venture again this year. Most notably is Fifth Third Bank and Lake Anna YMCA. We took some donations over to Backham earlier today from those places. Continuing with Change for Change, this month it's scheduled for Angie's Italian Restaurant on Friday, January 27th, benefiting Magic's Ready to Learn. Pretty awesome that we've collected since 2012 over $77,000. Whether it's Change for Change, it's Jeans Days, or it's some of the other events that we've put together, collecting funds or product that stays here in town, benefiting nonprofits in the community at large. Just lastly, as I mentioned the other week, the city received a donation from Malco Products of sanitizer and disinfectant. Under the program we started several years ago titled Barberton Forward, Neighborhoods First. We're partnering with Malco and we'll have 2 pass-out dates for residents of this sanitizer. So the first one will be this Wednesday from 9 a.m. till noon, and then the second one will be this Friday from 9 a.m. till noon, both at the Orange parking lot, which is, if you're from Barberton, the old high school parking lot, across from the Active Adult Center on West Hopkins Avenue, excuse me. So this is across from the Active Adult Center in Lake Anna YMCA. Anyone who wants to receive any sanitizer will have to provide proof of residency through either ID or a utility bill. We'll also have some spray containers of sanitizer in my office if you can't make one of these dates between 8 and 4, Monday through Friday. You can stop at my office and show the same proof of residency and get a container of sanitizer. We'll see how this goes, and then we'll set up future dates, also depending on the weather. So that's all I have. Are there any questions? No? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. With nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Heidick?
I'll make a motion. Oh, thank you, Mr. President. I make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mrs.
I'll
Thompson?
Thank you. I will second that.
Thank you. It was moved by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Didn't think so. This meeting is adjourned at 6:23 PM.
Is this a record?